Yes, that's right, we are back. And today I'm pretty excited because I'm going to be working on a new one, the Fakie Tail Slide. Now I can already do the Fakie Tail stall and I can also do the drop in. So I figured if I come in on a bit of an angle, I could turn that into a Fakie Tail Slide. Now I've already had one session on this and it was pretty fun. There were a few emotional dismounts and I also got a smidgen of success, but not enough really to call it a total win. So I'm back today to work on it. Before we start, I thought we could talk through some of the issues I was having. Now the first one was speed coming up fakie. And to do this, I'm executing a fakie carve out of the deep end, coming up, trying to pump the hip, and then hopefully having enough speed to then get up on the coping on that tail. The second thing I was having an issue with was creating momentum across the coping. Now I thought it was going to be just simply coming up at a bit of an angle, but that doesn't really do anything. I was finding if I come up at an angle, the sort of tail hits the coping, the wheels squeak a little bit, but it doesn't really create too much of a meaningful slide. So I found that the ones where I got a bit of a slide going, I went up pretty straight on the transition, and at the last minute did quite a sort of hard carve and pushed my weight across. And I found that if I combine that with a bending of the knees and a sort of pushing of the board out in front of me, I could get the tail to break out a little bit. The main thing that was stopping me were the wheels. So I was finding that in terms of the orientation of the board, either having the board flat or even nose down a little bit really helped the slide to happen. And I think that's because as I was coming along, these wheels could get caught and jammed against the coping if the board was up on its ear. And I can see that as I bring this nose down, the wheels progressively get more on the tiles. And I reckon the tiles are definitely a little bit more slippery than pinching against this coping. The third thing I was having an issue with was the amount of slide and anticipating what was going to happen. So 9 times out of 10, I'd sort of stop and go flying off the front, and that was fine. I could just knee slide out of that. The second thing that happened was I got the angle of the board right and she went like the wind and I came off the back. I landed down on my arse on the coping and that was pretty emotional. So I'm going to try and avoid that one today if possible. And the final thing was trying to commit to coming back in. I found that I was so startled if I got a little bit of a slide that I needed to keep my front foot on the board and that would allow me to come back in. Now to maximise my chances today, I've switched over to the Kendall Snake, and this has got a tail that is one of the biggest known to humanity. And I'm thinking a big tail with the Cruise Missile 2 concave, which gives a bit of a lip at the back there, could really be an advantage for doing the tail slide. So we'll see how that goes. Also, the Kendall has got pretty much no nose or a lot less nose. So that sort of changes the balance of the board and makes it a little bit more sort of liable to go up on its tail nice and easy. Now I've had a quick boost around just to get used to the board. I've done a couple of grinds just to settle in, get my legs warmed up. It is so cold today. It won't come out on the video, but oh my goodness, it's utterly freezing. So I've still got my jumper on. And my goal today is to try and get a meaningful slide, try and see that tail go across a block-ish of the coping. Anyway, enough of my yakking, let's boogie. Okay, I'm having no problem getting the speed, but it can be a bit hectic over that hip. Sort of easy to come off if my foot pressures are wrong. So I think next up I'm going to go for a squeaky tail stall, just a little bit of angle, see if I can get those wheels squeaking. I don't think there'll be much tail slide, but oh, I reckon I got 1 centimetre of squeaky wheel slide there. That's a bit of progress. Just came in a bit straighter and pushed a bit harder, but still nothing to write home about. I still think the board is too much with the nose in the air. So this time I'm going to come in a bit straighter and try and push it sideways and be courageous. I think if I can bend my legs up, it'll unweight the board a bit as well, which will make it more likely to slide. Whoa! Whoa! Woo! Okay, I've started to get a few more meaningful slides. I haven't been able to land one yet. And I'm finding the key is to keep the board nice and flat, maybe a bit nose down. What I'm finding, if I come in and put the nose up, I can come in on an angle and it just jams in on that back wheel and stops. And I'm seeing that the slide markings on my board are sort of saying that that's what's happening. So if I can keep it flat, keep my knees bent and just keep my feet on the board. I'm also finding that when it does slide, it surprises me and I come off the back. So I need to just stay low and maybe commit a bit forwards just to allow for the slide. Okay, that was my best one yet. Felt really nice. As I came in, I just changed my body weight to being a bit in front of the board and that allowed the slide to go somewhere. It still stopped and I came in prematurely. Felt like I did the whole corner, but of course, in reality, I probably only did half a block. I think if I can get a whole block of slide, I'll be well pleased. So that's the new mission. As I'm coming in, turn later than I think, bend my knees up more than I think, keep the board lower down than I think, and also put my body weight a bit more further forwards than I think. Whoa. Whoa. Oh crikey, I reckon that's the best tail slide I've had so far. I actually felt it go across the coping, but coming back in, I wasn't inside the ramp enough, and I'm finding that if I come back in too early on the slide, just loop out the back like a bad drop in, and that's pretty emotional. So I'm trying to go to my knees when that happens. Don't really want to get my foot caught behind my bum. I'm going to do a few more of these. I've had a bit of success. I reckon I've got half a block. I'd really like to try and get a block, so I'm going to do a few more, see if I can hold on to one or two, and then we'll call it a day. Well, that's it for this video, and that was a lot of fun. Managed to get a couple of sort of tail slides. It definitely felt like the tail was sliding. I haven't checked the footage back, but generally the footage tends to be a little underwhelming. It did feel like I was going for ages and still moving when I came back in. But progress was made. It was nice to get back on the Kendall Snake. I think the last thing I needed today was different, and the Kendall Snake definitely feels different. But once it was dialed in, it was whizzing round those fakie cars, and that was really the key to getting enough speed to get up there on the tail. And the ones that I made and the ones that felt most convincing were the ones where I came up straight at the coping and then turned at the last minute. Combine that with a bit of knee bend. And also I tried to anticipate that the board was going to slide by putting my weight a little bit forwards. Now, if the board didn't slide and my weight was forwards, I just flew off the front, which wasn't too bad. I think the worst one I found was when I wasn't ready for the slide and hooned off the back. And even worse than that was the one where it did slide and I was forwards, but I wasn't committed far enough inside the transition, and I sort of did a rubbish drop-in and nearly came off the back of the drop-in, which is always emotional. So I think the key points in order are to get a good speed into the coping, come up to the coping nice and straight, and then turn at the last minute. Sort of I found pushing my weight across the coping whilst bending my knees helped take a bit of weight off the board. And then if I could keep the board as low as possible, that felt quite scary. I found that when I did keep it low, that wheel wouldn't pinch. It would slide across those tiles. And then it was just a case of getting the right body position just to accept the slide. And then the last bit is just to drop in, hoping that my body weight was far enough inside the transition not to loop out. If you're new to the Fakie Tail Slide, then let me know how you get on with these in the comments below. And also, if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe. I make new videos all the time. As ever, my name's been John Bishop, and I'm a middle-aged guy learning how to skate.